Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. We got a special edition this evening. So we're going to recap Super Bowl 55 between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. If you like the video this evening, please come in and share it as we're going to break down the game, the winners and the losers of the game. Obviously, it's Tampa Bay who won the game and Tom Brady winning his 7th Super Bowl ring. And what happens to the Kansas City Chiefs. If you like the video, please come and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner, and helping me break down the game is a guy that played 12 years in the National Football League. He's a first-round draft choice of the Atlanta Falcons and the greatest draft ever. He tells me that every day, every minute, every moment. Mr. Bobby Butler out of Florida State University, two-time All-American that set the tone in Florida State of where they at today. So if you like the video, please come in and share it. So, Brother Butler, let's talk about yesterday. Tom Brady winning his 7th Super Bowl ring. Basically, the game obviously didn't go the way I thought it was going to go because I had the Kansas City Chiefs. And I would say this and let you start off. There's one thing I learned about that game last night that you've been preaching throughout the football season. We like to say thank you for being a nice addition to us this fall here at 100 Yards Football. But there was one point you always tend to drill in my head that I didn't pay attention to. And as my mama said, a hard head makes a soft butt. Let's use the other word. You always say the game is won at the line of scrimmage, and I understood that last night. So tell us what happened in the game and why was Tampa Bay so successful?
Well, you said it. You hit it on the head. It was at the line of scrimmage. Kansas City offensive line was injured. You know, they playing with a lot of replacement guys, right? And so what we tend to do, just like everybody else, we look at the pretty things. We look at the toys, the skill positions, and we just think that's it, right? As long as we got Patrick Mahomes, as long as we got Tyreek Hill, as long as we got Sammy Watkins and all these things, it don't matter who's up front. Well, we saw the difference last night. And what Tampa did to them because of that, I think the whole game, all the pressure they had on Mahomes the whole night, I think they blitzed maybe twice the whole game. Think about that. So they controlled the line of scrimmage with their forefront guys. I mean, and you know, we talk about championships now. You know, we've heard this phrase for a long time, ever since you and I could remember football was football, that you win championships with what?
The line of scrimmage. Defense.
But with defense, right? And it starts up front. And I'm telling you, man, they had Patrick Mahomes on roller skates the whole game. He was running for his life. And that hurt them because as gifted as a passer that he is, right? He couldn't sit back there and cherry pick the secondary. And he couldn't get comfortable. And he couldn't sit back there and go, okay, they're taking Tyreek Hill out of the game. Now let me play chess with them. And let me go over here and throw the ball to Sammy Watkins. I think Sammy Watkins had maybe 1-2 targets the whole game. Really? You know, that's because the guy was pressured. He was pressured all night. He was on the run. In the first quarter, you know, he made some key first downs with his feet, which we know he can do that, right? But when you talk about the whole game, it was disaster as far as protecting him last night. And the secondary, what they did in the secondary with Tampa Bay, they took away the big play. And then they played. But like I say, because of the pass rush, because Patrick Mahomes couldn't really get comfortable, he couldn't sit back there and play the chess game. He's running for his life and looking for guys to throw to, right? And that spelled disaster for them last night.
Okay. Brother Butler, I'm going to call you Brother Bobby Butler this evening.
All right.
We've been knowing each other for over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming from the bottom of the heart. Let's talk about the second quarter, and we're going to talk about the secondary play.
Okay.
I got 2 questions to ask for you.
Mm-hmm.
Was that interference on Bashar Breeland right before halftime against Mike Evans? Be serious this evening on 100 Yards of Football. Right. Was that interference?
Well, here's the problem. In my opinion, the ball was uncatchable. Okay? That's my opinion, right? But now the officials got to make that judgment. Because if the ball was in play, Vincent, if it was catchable, it was pass interference. You know, I come from the era where you couldn't breathe hard on a guy. I mean, you can have your hands behind your back and you breathe and his jersey move, they're going to throw the flag. I come from that area. At least right now, they're letting them play a little bit, right? So that was a judgment call. That was a judgment call. But for me, I wouldn't have threw the flag because I thought the ball was out of range of being caught.
Another key play in the second quarter, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badgers interception. They call it interference, I want to say, on the young man, Mr. Ward. In my opinion, that's not interference because that's a bang-bang play, and they let them play all game long.
Right.
I'm not trying to sit up here this evening on 100 yards of football by no means say the penalties costing them game. But however, I think in the second quarter, those two calls were very critical, changing the outcome of the game. Now, my biggest question, they called it real tight on the other side against Kansas City. You're not going to tell me, and I'm just asking, that Tampa Bay wasn't playing that type of aggressive coverage. What's the problem here with that?
Well, let me say it this way. Tampa Bay had a whole different scheme than the first time they played them. All right? Remember, I told you earlier, they control the defensive front with their front linemen. They blitzed maybe twice the whole game. So that meant they were not playing a lot of man-to-man coverage last night. Okay? So they were playing back in zones. They were playing back. Not using pressure with nobody but their up-front interior linemen, right? So that helped them as far as their pass coverage, right? They played a good game. They had a great game plan. And I think Kansas City was not ready for it. And I really believe this, Vincent. Now, I want you to hear what I'm about to say. Kansas City is a different kind of a team from an offensive standpoint. They are never out of the game. And so even though the game was going along and Tampa Bay was, it was 20-9, whatever, and the game was going, I never thought that they were out. Because remember, the Super Bowl last year looked like they were out of the game until the fourth quarter. Right? But Patrick Mahomes, with that great arm he got, sat back there and made some key plays and shift the momentum in the game last year. So I'm sitting there going, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, right? It's just a matter of time. Two things that happened. Well, three things to Kansas City's offense. First of all, the pressure on Mahomes. And number two, he threw 2 interceptions. Just 2 turnovers. Because when you look at the stat line, I think total yards, they were about even. I think Kansas City had like 350 and Tampa Bay had like 340 total yards. The only difference in the game was the 2 interceptions and the fact that Kansas City didn't put a ball in the end zone. We would have never thought, if somebody, put it this way, if somebody wanted to put money on that fact before the game yesterday, I would have took my last $1 out of my pocket and bet. Because there's no way that you're going to tell me that Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Kelsey, not going to put 1 touchdown in the paint? Well, last night it didn't happen. And Tampa Bay had a great game plan. We know they played defense light out. They played lights out on the defensive side, but their offense, hey, Vincent, it's the chess game. They had a masterpiece game plan. Masterpiece game plan. The first time they played Kansas City and Tampa, Brady threw, I don't know how many passes, but he threw the ball down the field more than probably any game the whole year. And he had almost 400 yards of passing in that game. But last night, they didn't throw the ball downfield, but maybe 2 or 3 times. He was playing that chess game. Gronkowski, playing that chess game. People like Mike Evans, people like, Antonio Brown, they didn't do a lot on offense last night. But then Leonard Fournette and Mr. Ronald Jones started running that ball. And you know that old school football, Vincent, we still believe in that old school football if you can do it productively. And what is that? We're going to run the football. We're going to beat you down. We're going to make the defense soft in the fourth quarter. That's what running the ball does. It's physical. We're going to beat the offense down. We're going to beat the defense down with our run game. And then we're going to pick and choose where we go. And when they got in the red area, it was all grunt last night. It was all grunt. And then when you see that pass they throw to Antonio Brown in the end zone, it was one of the best option routes I've ever seen. You know, that looked right down there in the red area. And he put the guy on his back, and all Tom Brady had to do was put it in front of him. And there we go. That was a touchdown. Did you realize that every guy who caught a touchdown in the game last night played in New England? Do you realize that?
No, I didn't realize that.
Well, Grunt caught 2, and Antonio Brown caught 1. Antonio Brown played 1 game for the Patriots, right?
Last year against Miami.
And you know him and Tom Brady hooked up for a score in that game.
Yeah, it was about a 55-yard scoring play.
Yes, it was. And so it was amazing that they got down there and they had the formula. And so it was a tough outing for Kansas City, but you know, history was broke last night. It was the first time a team played a home game for a Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era. That was different, and not just playing it, they won it in their home stadium. Now you know I'm from the state of Florida, and I'm gonna tell you, you know my boys in South Florida, they mad that Tampa Bay won because they Dolphin fans, right? And then my boys from college, you know, I got a lot of friends from Jacksonville, you know, they Jaguar people, right? So they mad. The emotion in the state of Florida is kind of mixed. But I think a lot of people rooted for Tom Brady last night. Not the fact that they're tired of seeing him win championships, but the fact that the conversation that we've had the past few years, why does the Patriots win all the time? Is it Belichick or is it Brady? Who is it? Is it the genes of Belichick or is it old man Tom Brady? Well, last night, I think we got the answer to that question. You know, New England didn't even make the playoffs this year, but Tom Brady made it back to the Super Bowl with another team. And he said last night on the podium after winning the MVP, we're coming back next year. We're coming back next year at 44, Vincent. Vincent, it's going to get better. He's going to have to quit sooner or later. I promise you, bro. He's going to have to quit sooner or later. But right now, the GOAT is coming back.
I'm going to say this about the game last night, my final words. I'm going to start with Tom Brady. There's no question about it. I think he's obviously the greatest quarterback to play the game based on his rings. I'm not going to go farther and say he's the best football player pound for pound. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. No, he's the greatest player at the quarterback position. But pound for pound, athletic-wise, no way. No, I'm not going to say that this evening 100 yards of football. Number 2, I will put him as the second best athlete in winning behind Bill Russell. I believe Bill Russell has 9 rings in 11 seasons. No question about it. Tom Brady has 7. So I put him number 2 on the list. But I give Tom Brady credit for one thing. He's a very intelligent guy because in the offseason, he could have picked any team out there. But he picked the Tampa Bay team. And I know we're talking about Tom Brady, but when you look at Tampa Bay, that is a very talented football team. Devin White is on the verge and ascending to being one of the best that ever played the middle linebacker position. Absolutely. Mr. Sewell has been always a top 5 tackle in the game. Bill Vela is starting to come in and be one of the top 3 tackles in the game. Yes. Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaquille Barrett are 2 of the top 5 pass rushers in the game. Mike Evans is in that top 5 wide receiving core. Chris Godwin is another young receiver trending. Antonio Brown, do I have to say anything else? Ron Gronkowski might be the best tight end that's played in this era. Then Tristan Wirfs, the young tackle out of Iowa, rookie, might be the best left tackle that's playing at a high level. He was very smart to know where he needed to go. And to me, that Tampa Bay team he had last night is the most talented team he's ever played on. That includes in New England. Yes. I'm saying it.
I agree.
So I give him all the credit. And why not come back when you got all that coming back? And then this is where people tend to realize, and I don't know what they're thinking about. When that young man was down at St. Aug High School in New Orleans back in the mid-2015 season, he was the best running back in the country. When he went to LSU, he was the best running back in the country.
That's right.
He went 4th overall, I believe, in the 2016 NFL draft.
You're right.
And he took Jacksonville to the AFC playoff championship game against New England.
That's right.
What happened in Jacksonville, he ended up not liking Tom Coughlin in the organization. So they put a bad feed out of him, and they were kind of like fighting, and they got rid of him. And then no teams wanted to pick him up because they saved his attitude. But as you saw last night, the young man out of New Orleans, St. Aug, Leonard Fournette, is what we call back in the 901. He is that real dog.
That's right.
And he got in a situation where he could be a real dog on that national level. And you saw how he stepped away from everybody. Gail Sayers likeness, Walter Payton likeness, Eric Dickerson. So I don't understand what people think Leonard Fournette is lost a lot at 25 years old. So I'm looking at Tom Brady. Why not come down there with them dogs?
That's right.
Then I'm going to say this. When you look at the game, I think Kansas City is going to be back. But the one thing that stuck out of my mind last night was that Patrick Mahomes laid it out there. I gained so much respect for him because he did everything he could to will his team to victory. But what happens? The Andy Reid situation with his son, that was too much to overcome. The injuries in the offensive line. But the one thing I'm going to take away from this game is there's no disrespect to your area, Mr. Butler. But there were 3 players that didn't step up. I know they was going to take Tariq Hill away. I know they was going to try to take Travis Kelce away. And they was going to be a little bit spying on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I'm going to ask you this. What was Mecole Hardman? What was Demetrius Robinson? What was Sammy Watkins? That's where I thought the key of the game would come down. Those players had to make plays, and they was nada.
Yeah, nowhere to be found. But Vincent, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Patrick Mahomes was on the run too.
But let me ask you,
a lot of that had to do.
Let me ask you this then, Bobby. Why not? I'm not going to throw it out there. Why not go to the short passing game?
Right.
5 yards. I've seen Kansas City do that in the regular season. Why did they then go to the short passing game, Bobby?
Well, you know the game plan, and you know this guy's a monster. Kelce is a monster in the room. You know, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the way I would play quarterback on that team, if I can't get Tyreek Hill, I'm definitely gonna look for Mr. Kelce to move the chain. We might have to do it 10 yards at a time. I don't care. I ain't gotta throw the ball down the field. Nobody can stop Kelce from posting up. I call it posting up because that's what they're doing now. Big tight ends coming down there and they're putting their back on the guy. Throw it in here, right? And they're posting up. He had a great night, but they should have really, especially with what was going on, they knew the only thing they had working offensively was Mr. Kelce. They should have threw that ball to him till his tongue fell out of his mouth last night. But, you know, hindsight is always 20/20.
All I'm saying is this, Bobby. Why they, regardless if it was Mr. Kelce, why they didn't go to the short passing game?
Right.
Nickel and diamond down the field. Because you know the rush was coming.
Well, it's definitely coming.
And all you had to do was go to a short passing game. Right. But hey, I'm not the coach. I'm just a guy that's doing a sports show on the platform with a great gentleman that played in the league. But to me, that's plain and simple.
Right.
But I would say this: I thought they was still in the game when it was 14-6.
Mm-hmm.
But when Tampa Bay scored that touchdown by halftime with Antonio Brown and that interference call against Brashawn Breeland, to me that was the nail in the coffin. Right there, I thought they took all the steam out of the football team.
Mm-hmm.
But kudos to Tampa Bay. Kudos this evening. Let's give some winners. Todd Bowles, outstanding job.
Great job. Todd Bowles, you know,
defensive coordinator.
Great defensive coordinator who was a head coach not long ago in New York and should get another opportunity to become a head coach with his ability to coordinate defenses. Let's also give kudos to Brian Leftwich. Brian Leftwich, offensive coordinator in the game, and he's another African-American coach who was a great player for the Jacksonville Jaguars out of Marshall University. Great quarterback himself. Understands, and you know what I loved about Byron Leftwich? See, he was a player not that long ago. And so him and Tom Brady, they jive well together, right? I can just see them sitting in the meeting room discussing, and it's not like authority over a player, right? So the relationship with them is great, right? I love that. Not only those two guys, the run game coordinator, Harold Goodwin, the strength coordinator, special teams coordinator, Mr. Keith Armstrong, inside linebacker coach, Mr. Mike Caldwell, offensive assistant, y'all may have heard this name, Antoine Randall L. Outside linebacker coach, Mr. Larry Foote. Female assistant strength conditioning coach, Marel Javita. Then you got the speed and conditioning coach. I want y'all to hear this name, Roger Kingdom. Y'all might not know who that is. But he's an Olympic gold medalist, right? And then you got running backs coach, Mr. Todd McNair, former of USC back in the day when my son Bryce was out there. And defensive line coach, Mr. Casey Rogers. And then one of my boys who played with the Kansas City Chiefs, cornerbacks coach, one of my guys, Mr. Kevin Ross. They call him The Rock. You got all those great coaches on this staff. And the thing I love what Bruce Arians said last night, because I'm going to tell you, the offense that you saw last night, Vincent, wasn't Bruce Arians' offense.
Yeah, because he likes to go vertical.
He likes to go vertical. He trusted his coaches. He trusted Brian Leftwich, right? He trusted Tom Brady. Y'all do it. As soon as he got to the podium, he said, I can't take credit. In other words, I'm just going to manage the game. Y'all put the input. Y'all come up with the game plan. Y'all do this thing. Listen, it don't get any better than that when you got a coaching staff playing team ball, right? And those coaches I just mentioned are all African-American coaches in the National Football League. And we can coach. Y'all know we can play the game, right? Y'all know we can play the game? We can coach as well, right? So I tell you, they had a great, it was just a great thing for Tampa to win that game last night and to do it in the style which they did it with the GOAT. But however, I heard the young man Patrick Mahomes say in the locker room last night, he gonna learn from this. So we can look forward to seeing him in the near future back at the same game, correcting the mistakes that he had last night.
Final words on the game last night, sir.
I tell you, it was a perfect game plan to Tampa Bay from an offensive standpoint. It was a great game plan by Tampa Bay from a defensive perspective. They knew going in the game that the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line was down. They knew they were going to go in there with their front guys, and they're going to drop 7. They played a lot of cover 2 last night, just dropping 7 and beating them with Vita Vea, beating them with Jason Pierre-Paul, beating them with Amdumaka Suh, beating them with William Golston, beating them all over the field. And then even Devin White and Levante David didn't even have to blitz. They making plays down there in the secondary last night. You know, but you remember the one that Devin White made that play in the end zone down there. Turnover, right? It was a great team effort by them. From a coaching staff standpoint, offensive game plan, from a defensive standpoint, the game plan on defense, and also the way them guys played on defense, team effort, all team effort.
Well, my final words to this, to our show this evening is that kudos to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kudos to the guy who's the greatest player to ever play the quarterback position. He's proven it with 7 Super Bowl rings and 10 appearances. Then kudos to head coach Bruce Arians. I don't know how in the world Pittsburgh fired him in 2009 as offensive coordinator. But Tampa Bay is not going nowhere. I think they're going to be a strong favorite next year in the NFC. And I think with Tom Brady and this very talented group of characters, I think they're going to be back. But Patrick Mahomes, I gained a lot of respect because he did everything in his power to try to will that team to a win last night. It just didn't happen. It was just too many variables. And as you say, Tampa Bay had a better game plan. So that being said, here on 100 Yards of Football, as a great group queen says, another one bites the dust. And as I always in the video, thank you this evening, Brother Butler, for helping me break down and recap of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. As always, I'm the only son, the baby boy of Chester 9 Years Turner from the 901 Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you and God bless here on 100 Yards of Football.